Hey Homebragios, what's up? Carter here. We are going to take a closer look at the Southern Grind Bad Monkey knife right here. I got this on Friday, it's now Sunday. Carried it all weekend. I've used it, not a ton, mainly light stuff, and to be honest, that's primarily what I use knives for. Opening packages, cutting things free, stuff like that. So I can't speak too much at length about the performance of the steel because I have not put it through its rigors. However, I'll talk about this in a minute. It's a pretty common steel, actually very common steel. It's used on many Kershaws. So there's information out there on how this steel performs if you wanted to look into it further. But first off, what is this knife? What is this thing? You probably never heard of this knife, and in fact I hadn't really either until recently. That's because it's a relatively new knife company called Southern Grind. It is owned by Zac Brown of the Zac Brown Band, and he is a well-known Emerson fanatic. He loves Emerson knives, so when he went and set out to design his own knives, pretty obviously he took a lot of cues from Emerson, most notably the wave feature right there, which is legitimately used and marked as such on the blade there. And there's more to it than just that. There's a lot of similarities between this and an Emerson. Well, let's do that right now. We have overall size. It's a large folding knife, around a 4-inch blade, over 9 inches overall. I'll put the specs down below. It does not contain fancy schmancy steel, similar to an Emerson, although this kind of pushes it even further. Titanium liners, in this case both the locking side and non-locking side. Similar blade stock, very close. Tactical fighting knife design overall. And you'll see like the jimping is executed in a very similar fashion to Emerson. It also features stonewash flats and satin grinds, like the satin or stonewash finish that Emerson uses. However, the stonewashing is not quite as crisp and nice. It's a little more scratchy. In fact, under certain lights, it literally just looks like it's been scratched a little. Only when you hit it just right, you can tell, oh, that's purposely stonewashed. So yeah, not quite as nice a job at the stonewashing as the Emerson guys. And that's and of course, it uses the same Emerson 3-hole clip structure. And I'll talk about that in a minute. You can see that one of the prominent features of this knife is this ultra short clip, and I'll talk about how that worked for me over the weekend. But first off, this is interchangeable with any Emerson clip. So any Emerson clip or Emerson style clip, you can swap it out, easy peasy. In fact, I almost did that, but then I said, no, I need to, for review's sake, I need to use this clip and see how it does. So I'll talk about that in a minute. Already talked about overall size. A few more features. Dual thumb studs right here. Everything on here is proprietary, made in the U.S. in their Georgia shop. So it's all done here in the U.S., all their parts. They specifically wanted it to be made at that shop, top to bottom. So that's why everything's proprietary. Thumb studs. Get a closer look here. As soon as we focus, you can see how it's got little grooves. It's got 3 grooves cut out around it. It's not perfectly round. Proprietary pivot here with the Bad Monkey on it. You can see the carbon fiber texture. It's actually peel ply. So it's got a peel ply kind of texture in a clear resin on top of the carbon fiber. It's got rounded corners, not beveled. So that's a very nice touch. Proprietary screws here as well. I have the kit to take it apart. I'll be taking it apart here in a minute. I'll do a separate video on that. Here's the liners. And as you can see, fit and finish in terms of... It's kind of funny. It's almost opposite of Emerson. And I'm talking about just this example. I'm not talking about all of them. I don't know. But the fit and finish on the handle is superb. I mean, you can see how the liners are completely finished and smooth. Inside, you can kind of see there's no machine marks or anything. The liners and the scales all are completely flush. Everything is just perfect. No gaps on anything. The blade does have a few scratches and scuffs, and I mean aside from the stonewash portion. For instance, right here there's a deep gouge. Right there you can actually feel it. Well, not gouge, that's a little bit extreme, but there's a scratch running down this way. And then there's a few scuffs like right along there, you can kind of see that, and it's just not quite as beautiful as an Emerson blade. Emerson blades are superb, I mean just top notch. But however, on the flip side, there's no machining marks even inside this jimping here, which you do see on Emerson's. So yeah, just kind of interesting. Not a big deal. This knife is definitely meant to be used. You know, and that's that. Just hands down meant to be used. And it's been a pleasure to carry it. But anyways, moving on with the features. Next up, let's talk about weight. For such a large knife, 4-inch blade, 9 inches overall, over 9 inches. This is like, I think it's just under or just over 5 ounces. And you know, first time I picked this up, it hits you. You know, you pick this up, you're like, wow, this is light. This carbon fiber, full titanium liners, and then even, you know, this hollow ground blade just makes for a very, very light knife for how big it is. So if you are into that, if you are looking for just a large, solid, yet lightweight knife, you're going to be very impressed by this. Lockup is still extremely strong, no wiggle, no movement, left or right, anything like that. I'm actually going to try to, when I put it back together, loosen the pivot just a tad bit more. It's a little stiff for my liking. Although, I don't know, when you remove the tension of the lock bar, it is pretty loose. So I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, definitely a very lightweight knife. The ergonomics on this thing is surprisingly good. I did not think it would be very comfortable. Much like a Strider, when you hold it in this position, this butt kind of fits right in that crease there, but it's rounded enough that it doesn't really provide a hot spot. I mean, you can definitely feel it there. It doesn't provide a hot spot. And of course, depending on the size of your hands, you may get a different feel for it than I do. I've got pretty big hands. When you hold it like this, still, you know, fairly comfortable. You can still feel this ridge right here, but it's not uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And definitely that's a big difference between this and Emerson. Emerson is known for its ergonomics. He puts ergonomics pretty much first on his list of things to accomplish on a knife. And you just can't compete with Emerson ergonomics. There's a reason why that's a term. But yeah, very surprising with this shape. Kind of this concave shape right here, and then kind of a Strider looking butt at the end. I was very surprised how comfortable it is. It definitely gets a lot out of the blade to handle ratio due to the shape. You can see how, you know, because the tip actually sits about right in here, it's about as long as you can get. And then with this kind of butt at the end here, really just maximizes your blade length. Speaking of the blade, what a great shape. Just a beautiful shape of a blade. Be great for piercing, cutting, all kinds of tasks. And no choil or anything like that, so you get a lot of cutting length, Finger guard here, in case you were doing some sort of thrusting, which, you know, not really supposed to do with a folding knife, but if you were to, it'll help keep your hand on the knife and keep it from sliding forward. So definitely very cool. Not too thick, not too thin handle I'm talking about. Rides in the pocket nicely. And let's bring that to the pocket clip. One of the biggest differences between this and most other knives is that short pocket clip. It's about half the length of your typical pocket clip. As it comes out of the box, it actually does not hit the scale. It has a little bit of a gap, maybe, I don't know, just a little bit of a gap. I went ahead and took it off and kind of bent it so it was a little more flush. So right now it definitely, I mean, it takes a little extra push to get it to pop in there. They did good by putting this extreme angle here so the material doesn't pop over the clip. It definitely wants to go underneath. So the way I have it set up right now, it does take a little bit of a push, but man, it is secure. It's definitely secure. And I can see the benefit for this shorter clip. In fact, I've often thought about what something like this would be like. You know, everybody's talking about low ride clips so you don't see the knife and stuff. And, you know, I often thought, do we really need a clip that's this long? I mean, could a little tiny clip just hold it in place? And according to what I've experienced so far, yes it can. I've had absolutely no problems with this falling out or any other issues. It has worked just fine, and when it is in your pocket, it really is pretty minuscule. I mean, that is a very non-threatening pocket clip. You don't imagine a blade this big to be attached to that little clip there. And it does ride fairly low, not too low, but fairly low. So you get a little bit poking out here. So you can imagine this much coming out, and then you just see this little clip, very inconspicuous. I don't think too many people would be alarmed if they saw that. Next up, let's talk construction. Went ahead and went with a pillar construction, which I'm torn with. On one hand, it's a very, very, very solid construction system. You don't have to worry about things like stripping out your screws because you're screwing into this nice pillar right here. However, oftentimes it does kind of make the knife seem a little skimpy, is maybe the word I want to say, maybe cheap. I think it's just because a lot of inexpensive knives use that system just because it is so efficient. But, so I don't know, that's up to you. I mean, looks-wise, I would like a backspacer if I had my choice. So yeah, take it or leave it. Definitely solid, 100% solid. Flow-through design, nothing's going to get caught in there, nothing's going to get gunked up, anything like that. Lockup is about 50% right out of the box. So definitely solid. Hasn't moved that I can tell, and I've played with it every night since I've gotten it. Like I mentioned, still super solid. Oh yeah, reverse grip, excellent, just excellent, kind of like a Strider. Your thumb just goes right on that ramp right there. You've got this nice finger guard. It just feels so secure. Definitely one of the better grips in reverse that I can say that I've handled. So yeah, I guess that's about it that I wanted to talk about. You know, there's always a few things. I hesitate when I nitpick things because I don't want to make it seem like I'm whining or complaining and things like that. But I definitely feel the need to express things that I think would be nice to change. One of them was the backspacer thing. It'd be nice with backspacer. It's mainly looks though. It's not functional. I think these body screws could just be Torx. I like the proprietary pivot screw. Adds style, adds uniqueness. It's cool. It's not that big a deal to use their tool to undo that. But I think these ones are kind of unnecessary. They're just body screws. You know, the pocket clip can be taken out with the Torx. I don't see why these can't just be regular Torx screws, but that's just me. I love this carbon fiber. You do not see peel ply carbon fiber all that often, and I like it. And it's that thick weave carbon fiber too. The weight on this thing is just amazing. Oh, the steel. I haven't even talked about the steel. That's probably, which is funny. I was about to sign off, and this is going to be the most contentious. Is that the right word? I don't know. This is going to be one of the most talked about things with this knife at its price point. This is about 200 bucks, give or take. I think 180 specifically, although, you know, the price has gone up a little since when it first came out. But, so around 200. And the steel it's used is pretty inexpensive. I don't have the actual name right now. You'll know which one I'm talking about. I'll have it in the description. But it's the one that was specifically designed for Kershaw by Sandvik, that's used on a lot of their more budget-friendly knives. It is a, you know, pretty hard. Gets a nice razor sharp edge. From what I understand, it holds it pretty well. In fact, really well, and it has good corrosion resistance. However, it is not a higher end steel. From what I understand, most people put it below 154 cm even. So, you know, and you got to take that with a grain of salt. You know how people put their basis on that and things like that. I mean, you know, there's people out there that say 440C is still a super steel. That's more than enough steel for anybody. So I don't know. For me, obviously, you know, it's a little bit of a conflicting thing because it's plenty steel for me. You know, it's fine. I would not, if this was S90V, I would not be able to use this knife enough to tell the difference. However, when you pay a certain price for a knife, you want that, you know, you want those extra little things on it, or else you're like, why am I spending so much? Which, by the way, you are spending so much because this is a made in the US knife, carbon fiber handles, great design, really nice. Fit and finish on this is just excellent. I definitely think it's worth the money. I really do. It's a really cool company that I think is definitely worth supporting. So definitely think it's worth the money, but I know the steel is going to hold some people back. Oh, by the way, this knife comes in multiple styles. You can get this in their modified Tanto blade, which is pretty interesting. It's quite a bit different than the Tantos you've probably seen, especially the tip. And then you can also get both this and the Tanto in serrated and then black coated. And the black coated is $30 more at the time of this video. And it's not only the blade is Cerakoted, but the liners are all blacked out as well, which I think is a really cool touch. Because it is kind of funny when companies, you know, do their stealth version with the black blade, but you still have all this other bling untouched. So it's truly completely more or less blacked out on their black version. So definitely cool. But yeah, all in all, I like this knife. I do. I really like this knife. I would definitely recommend it. You know, it's not revolutionary or anything like that, but it's a cool knife, and I think it's geared more towards Emerson fans. I think would probably enjoy it the most. But I think a lot of people would like it as well. Alright guys, I am out of here. I'm actually going to take this apart and do a separate video on that. In fact, this may be two videos in and of itself because I have talked so long. Alright guys, later.